Rich, what problems, what mistakes do young entrepreneurs make when they're trying to get into a relationship that you see that you're working with guys?
Very simple. She's pretty. She touched my pee-pee. I'm going to date her or marry her or invite her into my life.
Sold.
Right? Like guys are very, very simple, right? It's like, oh,
Right?
she's giving me attention. She's responding to my texts.
Yeah.
She'll go out with me and have dinner sort of thing. But women are a lot more complex than that. And men are never taught, the reality of what women actually respond to, right? We're just taught to shut up, get your head down, get to work, make the money, provide for family, pay your taxes, all that good stuff. Cut your lawn, just be a good man sort of thing, right? So guys don't really understand the reality of what women are actually about. So one of the big problems that I see a lot of guys run into, and I've sort of distilled it down to this phrase, would chase excellence, not women, is guys, especially when they get into longer term type of relationships, that's when you see guys put on weight. They might start to get lazy. One of the main complaints that you hear from a lot of married women is, I just don't see him the same way as I did before. And if you get lazy in a relationship, you don't sort of move up the corporate ladder, you don't improve yourself, you don't maintain a certain standard of health and the optics of masculinity and strength. It's not uncommon for a lot of married guys to be sitting around with Cheeto dust on their chin or their shirt watching sports for hours.
But that's Homer Simpson. That's what every man is portrayed these days. It's gross.
And that's one of the lies that society has sold us, is just sit around. As long as you get married and take your vows, you can just sit around and do nothing, right? With your pastime and your evening. It's total bullshit. Guys have to chase excellence. The burden of performance is on men. Men are success objects. This is one of the things that
he's getting me fired up, Gino. Like I'm about to do push-ups right now.
So this is one of the things that Dr. Warren Farrell talked about in his book. He has a book called The Myth of Male Power. And guys are viewed as success objects to women. So you must maintain a certain degree of the pursuit of excellence in your life as a guy if you want to keep a woman or keep women around you in your life. Women, on the other hand, are beauty objects to men. Men know that women don't generally share their pot of gold with them, right? So there's a small contingent of guys that are like, oh, I'm looking for a sugar mama sort of thing. But women typically marry across and up. So because they're hypergamous, they want to find the guy that's the bigger, better deal than him. So very, very common for a CTO making $250,000 a year to wife up Becky the hairdresser making $40,000 a year, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If women weren't hypergamous,
and you're saying in that instance, Becky's hot, and that's what did it for the guy.
Bingo.
Yeah,
she was hot. She returned my text, she touched my pee-pee, so we got into the long-term relationship. And most guys don't have an abundance mindset. They don't have experience with women. They don't understand, the reality of what women respond to, why they leave men, why they choose men, and all that sort of stuff. So I deal with a lot of that in my videos now on YouTube and my book, and so on and so forth.
You're like Will Smith in that movie where he was like the dating expert or something. What was that? Hitch,
except for Will Smith is a dork and really doesn't live his life correctly. I mean, look what he allowed to happen to himself. He let his emotions get the better of himself, and he walked up on a stage and punched one of his friends right in the face. He lets his wife go out and bang his son's best friend.
Okay, stop. Keep it right there. Is that not okay from a subconscious, psycho, whatever perspective? To me, watching this from the outside, I have no idea what's going on in his personal life. I feel bad for him for what happened. But do we not all believe that that's why that happened? Like his wife's doing things that he's clearly not comfortable with. And he eventually and people are, and the guys out there, Chris Rock's talking shit. The guy snaps. He was probably so pent up and pissed off because he's living his life one way. His wife is living another. And he looks like an asshole after he's the quote unquote epitome of success. And the dude breaks. I mean, is that, I'm not a psychiatrist, but it looks pretty clear to me.
That's the behavior of the average male today. They don't have standards. They don't have control over their emotions, and they allow their women to do obnoxious things like sleep with their son's best friend, right? Like, what guy 20 years ago would say, yeah, cuckoldry is absolutely acceptable in my house? It bothers men. There's no time in history where men accepted letting their woman sleep with other men. But it's only today. Like, you take a look at media outlets, and they're trying to normalize the pussification of the Western male, right? Oh, just look the other way when she runs around, behind your back, because if guys are doing it, then women should do it too, right? So there's all these sort of lies that are perpetrated in society that are getting amplified, and it's demasculizing men and it's masculizing women. I don't think it's good overall for the direction that we're heading in, but that's just the reality of the world that we live in today.
I have so many questions. So
Oof.
for me,
you guys want to buckle in for the real deep stuff? Let's keep diving down.
No, but when you get hit in the gut, sometimes you got to take a step back.
No, but Rich, for me,
I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah, but for me, it's real simple. I'm a Christian, believe in God. There's no mention of God anymore. There's no expectations. There's no forever. There's no long-termism left anymore. There's no let's work this thing out anymore. It's everyone cut bait. There's a lot of things that are going on other than just men screwing up. I think when a man looks for a woman, we're values-based decision-making. When you get into a relationship, well, what are your values? Men don't even know what our values are. Like you said, touch PP and get together. So there's so much more to it. I mean, I think as you're a male and you're young and you're thinking about this, what do you want your life to look like? When we got married, me and my wife, I have 6 children. We homeschool our kids. We got married. My wife already had the expectation of, I sort of want to stay home. You can go to work and I'll be in the background. I'll raise the kids. You know, as the kids got older, now we have the podcast together. We're working together. But that's what the expectation was when we got married. Not that, hey, I'm going to go out, become a lawyer, and we're going to have student debt. So I think all of you men out there, what is the expectation? When you start dating, what does it look like for you? I mean, do you want to comment on that? Because I think that's where the stepping stone is. What are your values and what are the expectation of this relationship?
Yeah, that's an interesting talking point from the sort of Christian, more or less like the traditional conservative sort of community. Like I've been married for 30 years. We've got 6 kids. I've talked to a few guys like that. And that social contract, existed for a long, long time. And I think religion overall is probably, good for society. I think it's good for long-term marriages. It seems to be good for families and children. But the problem with it today is that that's another lie that's being perpetrated. So a very common thing that guys will start to see more and more on dating apps today. So you can take the average, 30-year-old guy that downloads Tinder or Bumble and starts to swipe, and he'll start looking at women his age or younger, typically. And it's not that uncommon to see a pregnant gal on a dating app with another man's seed in her belly with 2 or 3 other children in tow from other men, claiming that she's gotten right with God, is looking for a man of God, and is in this for something serious now. Only an absolute fool and tool of society today would take that on. But the problem is that even things like religion are telling gals, well, as long as you get right with God, you'll be forgiven for your past sins or bad choices. And then, here we are where they try to, Christian mingle them up, sort of thing. And we know, statistically speaking, that one of the worst choices a guy can make for a long-term relationship, or choosing the mother of his children, let's say, which is probably a better way to sort of distill it, because that's the whole point of marriage, really, is to raise a family and have children and pass on your name and your DNA, sort of thing, is to find a woman that hasn't made bad choices in the past, meaning she hasn't been with a lot of guys. A woman with a notch count, as I call it, generally today, of 0 to 1 has a very low probability of getting divorced. Whereas a woman with a notch count of 3, 4, as it escalates to 10, 12, and they stop collecting the data after 15. And by the way, it's not that uncommon for a college-age woman today to have slept with 25 or more guys by the time she finishes college or university. The chances of divorce increase dramatically. And not only do the chances of divorce increase dramatically, but the chances of her being depressed, having multiple abortions, being on SSRIs, like, you can go right down the scale. Promiscuity is very, very bad for women. But that, again, is one of the lies that they've sold society, is that women can be as promiscuous as men without consequences. And that's simply not true. The data doesn't reflect that.
And you have an active channel that's not shut down, and you're saying this stuff.
Yeah, you have to be careful about the way that you have these conversations. Yeah, it's an interesting line that, you have to walk when you have these conversations. Like, I was doing this in 2016 and 2017, long before some of the like guys like Andrew Tate, I'm sure your audience have probably heard of, now we're even making the prolific, bold statements, that they are still today. But it's a fine line that you have to walk to have these conversations, because when you speak the truth, it offends people. Like, bombers get flack when they're over the target, and you have to be very, very careful about when you're flying over the target. I really hope you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to watch the full-length podcast, you can find that over here, that clip's from. If you're newer to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe over here, and pin down below in the top comment, you'll find a bunch of useful links to my website, my supplement line, books, and a bunch of other stuff. Have an amazing day. Peace out.